All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Millennial Sales Podcast, episode 207. This is your host, Tommy Tahoe Alemo. Excited to be bringing you another episode where I help to break down for young sellers how to have a successful career, make more money, be more fulfilled, get promoted, be able to sleep at night, whatever it is that you're trying to get done in this crazy sales world. We're all in it together. We're in the last month of the end of the first quarter for most of us, if we're starting on that calendar year. And so you start to feel that quota get a little bit heavier. It's starting to get a little bit warmer in the room. It's you're sweating a little bit more in the forecast meetings. Maybe that's just me. So I'm finishing up my first quarter of ramp over at Gong and just doing my damnedest, man. So I appreciate everyone that is showing love and listening and supporting the show. I just closed my first 2 deals there. So if you want to send me a congratulatory fruit basket or Ben and Jerry's or whatever it is, hit me up. I'll give you my address. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. I got my good friend Jon Barcellos on the show. He's an account manager at Postal IO, and met Jon last year in the beautiful world of LinkedIn. I think he was checking out the show. Simultaneously was trying to get me onto the Postal platform, which anecdotally is very cool. And we got chummy, and I decided to bring him on because I liked the way that he sold. I liked his vibe. I thought he was very professional yet casual, and was easy to get along with, and was someone that I thought just did a really good job. So you're going to learn from Jon in this episode. He's got a super interesting backstory of getting into, the world of hospitality, and not just like as a drive-by, as a waiter for a few months during college, was in the waiter in the high-end cocktail business for years and then jumped into sales. So we talk about that transition. We talk about the transition of COVID. He's a father. And so managing the sales life with being a dad, which is something that doesn't get talked about a lot. We talk about at the time it was the end of his year, so how he was pulling in some deals, his shift recently from account executive to account manager, so working more on like the post-sale side of things and upsells and renewals and all that stuff. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode with Jon. His charisma, his energy is contagious. You're going to feel good. You're going to be ready to roll. If you find any value, my one quick plug, head over to Apple. Please subscribe, leave a 5-star review. It takes you a minute and a half. It makes my day, makes me smile, and helps us to grow the show. So otherwise, hit me up on social, Tom Alemo or Tommy Tahoe, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the places. So without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Jon Barcellos. Let's go. Jon Barcellos, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Absolutely. We got some end of year magic happening, end of fiscal year magic happening for you right now, huh?
Isn't that the truth? Yeah. We're that's what we're just wrapping up right now for my team and I, January 31st, which falls on a Sunday, of course. So we're having a very fun end of the week on my end.
I love it. There's nothing like that end of year rush. I've never had the end of year in January before. How's that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, frankly, I haven't either. It's a unique experience. You kind of get this perspective of, you think you're closing out the year because it feels like it, and so many of your prospects and clients are actually in that, but it's not. So it gives an interesting leverage in the sales conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's probably good you could probably actually recharge a little bit at the holidays, because so this year is an exception because I was in between jobs, but the last 2 or 3 years before that, I closed the deal between 6 and 9 p.m. on New Year's Eve every year. And it was always, I was talking to our finance person, and I was at my girlfriend, now fiance's parents' house, and I'm like ducking out of the whatever we're doing, playing cards or watching the TV or something, to go make a call. And it was just it's not ideal. So I like the January move. I envy that.
Yeah, totally. I live that same thing actually for the holidays. My family celebrates Christmas, and we would always be Christmas Day. We'd actually go to my wife's grandmother's house, and she lives, for the lack of better terms, in the sticks. She's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. There is internet, so that was nice. I would always have my laptop with me. But yeah, there was that time between like Christmas Day and New Year's Day where it's the end of the year. What magic is going to happen? And I have those same stories of the 6 o'clock at night, or even a 5 o'clock in the morning for me on the West Coast, talking to somebody on the East Coast. So to your point, actually, having a January end of the year is pretty rad, because it does allow you to have a little bit of breathing room there around whatever holiday you enjoy, and the New Year to kind of be with family. And I'm a big family guy. I come from a massive family. I have kids myself, so it was really, really nice. I actually took the last 2 weeks of December completely off.
Oh,
And
nice.
my previous roles before being in software sales were in restaurants, bars, working in high-end cocktail places, or even in theaters, like live theater venues, right? So those types of things actually don't sleep at the holidays either. So this was the first year of my professional life, even adult life, I can say, that I got to do that, and it was rad.
I love it. I love it. What's your go-to cocktail? I didn't know you were at a high-end cocktail place. Put you on
Ooh,
the spot there.
no, it's good. Sazerac, actually.
Well, I have no
Yeah.
idea what that. I don't know what
Yeah.
that is. I don't know how to spell it. Give me what is that?
Sazerau. I'm a terrible speller, but I know it's Saze. And it's
Okay.
actually a cocktail that's native to New Orleans. It's rye whiskey. You have a rinse of absinthe in your glass, some Peychaud's bitters, which is like a berry-based bitters. You're gonna have a orange peel zest in it as well. Maybe a little bit of simple syrup, depending on your taste, or maybe what rye you're using. But man, oh man, the absinthe rinse on the glass is really the trick. So you get a lot of those anise notes.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to like the anise flavor. Most people are more familiar with like black licorice in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
but very
Yeah,
hint of that. So
you know your stuff. I love
I like to think that I know about drinking, but it sounds bad when you say it like that.
it.
So
Yeah, you know mixology. You know
I know what I
mixology.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, I'm sure people did not tune in to hear us talk about rye whiskey. Well, maybe
Fair.
they did, depending on what night you're watching this. So I'd love to hear what you folks have some exciting stuff going on at Postal.
Mm,
You've made a recent switch from AE to account manager here to start 2021. So I'd love to hear what some
yeah.
of the tips you have are for the fellow millennial salespeople that are grinding out and looking to make it happen in 2021.
Yeah, yeah, and as one of those older millennials, actually, I think I hit like right on the top end of the spectrum. I think that's what's so interesting about our generation is that we've grown up in a different world than the generation before us, and I mean that really in a technology sense. And so many of us now find ourselves working in that space, which is constantly evolving. And I think there's, when you asked me, to prepare for this, I thought about a couple things. I thought about a lot of things, but I tried to narrow it down into a couple. And I would say, first and foremost, in 2020, and the events of that have really shown us how important this is you need to be you. You have to be honest, and you have to be present, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that it's I know it sounds cliche and it sounds all of that, but the reality of, like I was telling before we were recording, just before this, I was across the hall having a tea party with my 3.5-year-old, and I'm wearing lipstick right now. You can't see it because it's a fake lipstick, but I'm wearing, like, those types of things. I try to actually squeeze those in between meetings as much as possible in my day. It's who I am. I want to be with my kids, right? And it actually has helped me mentally through a lot of these times. I think just kind of being friendly overall with
Yep.
people. I think it takes a lot less energy to be nice about something, and to be okay with letting things roll off your back. Just like water off a turtle's back, as the phrase goes. You
Mm-hmm.
can sit there and be upset about things that are out of your control, but at the end of the day, you're burning energy that you could be funneling into a more positive place to actually be productive about something.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And let me ask
yeah,
you about the, having tea parties, in between calls and things like
yeah.
that. Like, does that doesn't disrupt your flow, your rhythm? You're like, you have a great call, and then you go to the tea party, and then it's like, oh, now I got to go prospect, or whatever I got to do. Like, how do you switch
Yeah.
like that? Switch it on and off.
Oh, that's a great question, and I actually do get asked that a lot by coworkers as well. And so for me, I think it's kind of back to just being me.
Yeah.
I am very type A, and I'll admit that I am type A. I have a schedule. Here is my schedule. Here is how it goes.
Yeah.
This is when I'm prospecting. This is when I'm organizing my pipeline. This is when I'm figuring out, do I want to pursue this deal more? All of those things that we all do throughout our day.
Yep.
But within there, I think it's really important, and I think back to those events of 2020 and how they've changed all of our lives. It's important to have that step back, because so many of us are in that same building all day now. That building is also our house, so there's no separation of work and real life, and that can be where it's really, really dangerous. So what I decided to do for myself is just kind of blend them. So if my 3.5-year-old happens to open that door and I'm on an enterprise call with 50 users maybe of our platform, and we're all talking, like, that's going to happen. That's going to be my real life, and I'm going to let it happen, actually. Of course, within reason. There's sometimes like maybe that's not the best time to come in. Her name's Vivian.
Yep. Shout out to Vivian.
Shout out Vivian. Yeah. So
yeah, and maybe like that brings the human side to you as well, right? Like,
yeah.
she comes in. Who's gonna, who on the other side is gonna be like, I can't believe that guy had his 3-year-old daughter walk in. I'm trying to learn about postal. I'm trying,
Yeah.
it's like it's a much needed kind of break in the seriousness of most sales calls or most business calls. It almost like kind of works in your favor, kind of build rapport. And not that you're using it that way, but it's just like it. I think it's true. Showing yourself as a human helps to build trust and build relationships.
Well, that's part of like what that's what we're all supposed to be doing, right?
Yep.
Like, we shouldn't be coming into this looking for the sale. The real thing is, like, we come into it looking for how we can help you, but then when you're able to humanize yourself, that's when you start kind of creating your own opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right there, just with that, and I think that again goes back to what I was first saying, is being you and being honest.
Yep.
Because if that comes from a genuine place, it's easy.
Yeah.
That gets to be your tailwind.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. What else you got for? Well, wait, hold on. There's one other thing I want to talk to you about. That I noticed. I don't think I ever saw this before today. You've got the arm tats.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of tattoos, actually. I've got some that will just not show for the camera's sake.
Yeah. For the
we'll keep the show
watching on
rated.
people watching on YouTube, or not watching on YouTube, he's got the full sleeves going on. But so let me just ask you point blank, like, that's part of the sale. Like, you're not hiding that as a salesperson.
No,
like,
I actually don't. Yeah, I'm very proud of the artwork that I've put on my body. Everything actually has a little bit of meaning. My grandfather is here on the inside of my arm. I have the Chinese zodiac signs of both my grandmothers is on my other forearm. My last name is actually this rooster. It means the rooster, and so that's what's over here. I get asked about my artwork a lot, and it actually allows me to tell my story a little bit. I'm very proud of it all.
I love it. I had to pin in on that. I'm too afraid of needles to get one myself, but I think they're very cool.
You'll like to hear this then. I actually can't watch myself give blood. I don't. Not that I faint. Literally, my body my veins get like really tight. The doctors are always like, "You just need to relax. You have enough tattoos. Are you scared?" And I'm like, "No, my body just starts like freaking out a little bit, I guess."
Weird.
So, so it's a different feeling. I'll say that. But if you ever want to get something together, I've got a lot of little things that I have gotten with buddies. Man, I'll get a little heart with you.
Get a little heart on like the bicep or something like that,
Yeah, man. I mean, right on the belt line. It's like a really cute spot. We can do that together.
Hey, let's do it. Hey, if this show gets a certain amount of downloads, then I'll do it. That's
sure. I will match that with you. Let's do that.
I love it. All right, so we've got being human, being friendly. Anything else that you want to get off your chest here? Any other tips that you've got for these lovely listeners?
Yeah, man. I think I kind of hinted at it, but like creating your own opportunities is like that is no matter what role you're in. I don't care if you're an SDR, I don't care if you're an AE, your enterprise, your SMB, your land expand, doesn't matter. Create your own opportunities. Nothing is given to you. Anything you want in life is always like, you got to go get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have that, and you've got to want it. If you don't want it, and I mean this with love, find some other shit to do. There's plenty of other jobs, right? Because you will hurt yourself in the long run. So if you're not wanting to go and find your own opportunities, this is not for you. I think that, like, when you, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, keep it rolling.
Yeah, man. I think that, like, within that, it comes down to, like, for each individual is really simple, and you got to know your industry, and you got to know who your ideal customer is, and focus on that too. Don't try to force the square into the round peg, or however the phrase is. You don't try to force it.
Yeah.
I'm really great with analogies, by the way. But like, if you're forcing it, it's gonna feel forced, and that's not gonna actually be you finding your own opportunities. That's you running uphill and into the wind with the parachute on your back. You're gonna feel like shit,
Yeah. That was, I talked to a friend of mine that just got promoted from BDR to AE. And that was my number one piece of advice, is that, again, whether you're an AE or SDR or account manager, it doesn't really matter. You've got to go out and hunt. You got to go out and create opportunities in one way or another. And that's the separator. You can hit your number with your SDR doing a lot of that work, or marketing helping you out, or whatever. You can hit it some months or some quarters or a few years, but if you want to consistently do a good job, and you want to consistently not only hit your number, but also, for me, it's less anxiety. It's a more fun job. It's a less anxious job. It's a more lucrative job when you've got more things in the air, right? And so if you lose a deal, it sucks, but it's not as big of a deal because you got 3 others right here, and so if you're not going out there and creating it, then you're leaving yourself exposed to having a really bad day someday.
That is, I cannot tell you how true that is. And I was fortunate to start as an SDR myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably why I have that kind of gut and go for it mentality. I think it's baked into you if you start in that role and kind of work your way up into other sales positions from there. My greatest stretch of my career was hitting goal 21 months in a row. And I remember month 22 when I missed. I remember how disappointed I was. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I know exactly why it happened. And it's because 3 months before that, I started slacking off in my outbound effort. I know it. I know that's why it happened. I wasn't creating my own opportunities, right? That's on me.
How pissed are you about that still to this day?
Can you feel it?
So,
I mean, I talk to the SDRs I work with now about it. I talk to the AEs I work with now. I talk to everybody, because I was an AE at that point, but and yeah, the stretch where I had hit goal was actually, I was an AE the entire time, but there's no excuse for that. That was all my fault. I'll never forget it.
21 months in a row.
It's fun when that happens. Trust me.
I bet.
Very, very fun.
I bet. That's consistency.
Yeah, it was great.
I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Well, these are great tips. I know you've got a packed schedule with tea parties and closing end of year business and all the things in between both of those things. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on. Any last words of advice, of sage wisdom coming down from Santa Barbara for the millennial sellers out there?
Yeah, man. Hit me up on LinkedIn if you got a question. Maybe that's it. Like, I want to be an open book. I was asked if I would be interested in tech sales. Almost, let's see, I'm 33, so this is probably close to a decade ago at this point, and I was scared. I was scared out of ignorance, I'll say, because I thought, oh, that's not for me. I mean, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not this. Maybe I'm not that. And I couldn't have been more wrong on that. So if any of the listeners like want a piece of advice, and like I said earlier, this job is not for everybody. If I can help you figure that out and like avoid something that might hurt you or give you something that might help you, that is, giving back is like the best thing to me. Shout out Tony Wigney. This guy actually helped change my life. He was a rep who basically told me, was I was looking to get into software sales and out of the restaurant game. He said, you know how to work hard? Know how to keep your head down? I answered yes to both. He said, yeah, you'll be all right. He gave me a pat on the shoulder and he walked away. We're great friends now. I consider the
were
guy
you
a
at
mentor.
were you his like server or something? Where's this happening?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. No, I was actually so I used to manage a couple locations of a restaurant and bar called Slow Brew. It's a brewery in San Luis Obispo, and he one of my bar leads that I had hired actually used to work in software with Tony. And so we were just talking one night as we were closing the bar. It's like 3:00 in the morning. My wife at the time is 4 months pregnant with our first. And I'm thinking 3:00 in the morning, my wife's pregnant. This isn't going to work out. I got to figure out something else to do. Right. So he said, well, you might want to look into software sales. And I was like, yeah, I know. But like 8 years ago, or no, it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, however long it was, I was like, hey, and I have all these excuses. He goes, no, I think you'd probably do well at it. You should call this guy. We got together. We had a conversation. That was the end of it. He goes, John, I think you're smart. You know how to put your head down? You know how to work hard? You'll be fine. And he walked away. And I'll never forget that, because he was right. And I think that's kind of the biggest secret to all of this.
I love that. I love that story. And then you went out there and how many, you said that was 10 years ago?
No, that was, no, maybe, well, see the 2017, 4 years ago.
Like 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago. And it was like 6 years before that when I had my first, somebody approach me and say, hey, you should probably look at this. So I ran from something that was probably really, really good for me for 6 years. Don't do that.
Don't we all?
Hey.
We're all afraid of our own success.
Totally. Yeah. Hindsight's always 20/20 on those things, of course. And there you are. But I think it's like always looking forward, like I was saying, like be present in those moments. That does the trick.
I love it. So everyone hit up Jon, open invitation on LinkedIn, Jon Barcellos. I appreciate you coming on the show, my man. This is great.
My honor. Seriously, Tom, it's been great. It's been great to watch your other guests. It's been great to be a part of this community with you guys. I'm stoked for it.
And for any sales leaders out there, get your budget ready for Postal in 2021.
Absolutely. Let us know. We're ready to talk.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Happy March. Thank you for listening to that episode while you're walking the dog or doing your laundry or prospecting, whatever you're up to. Please head over to Apple, leave a review, 5-star review. Helps me grow the show. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Tom Malemo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Tommy Tahoe. Peace.